And also, like, the thing about that and I love how you said it also, on tour. I think on tour, that's what's important. In regular and world disc golf, all that, I think it's fine. It's a-okay how it is.
And so I don't really have any desire to do like an 8 speed. I don't really have a desire to have an 11 speed. You know what I'm saying? So that's like, those are my two big recommendations. Like,
people, they'll carry so many discs and they're like, oh, this is for this shot, this is for this shot. But, you can take one disc, and if you're good enough, you can make more shots with that one disc than you can with 20 discs and do like different shots, if that makes sense. So yes, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I think even if you're right about like, hi everyone, I'm Joel Freeman, sponsored by Innova, and you're listening to the Chain Clankers podcast.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Chain Clankers Disc Golf Podcast. We got another fantastic episode for you guys today. Today, we are interviewing Innova's own Joel Freeman. You heard him in the intro. We have a fantastic discussion about why you should be minimizing your bags, the less discs in your bags, how that can actually increase your skills and allow you to become a better disc golfer. I know we've talked about that on the channel before, but Joel provides a new view of how to do that and what that can actually do for you, as well as we learn his journey and some other really cool tidbits. Make sure you stay tuned through the end. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button, whatever it's called on your platform. I know Apple Podcast now calls it the follow button, so make sure you do that. If you haven't, leave a rating and review. We really do appreciate those. It allows us to get better as well. We are running a giveaway on our YouTube channel right now, so do make sure you go check it out on our mystery box video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Joel Freeman on. Alrighty, guys, let's welcome in Joel. You've probably seen a ton of content over on his Instagram lately. He's really been killing the game over there as well. You probably saw a lot of him on coverage in 2021. Super excited to talk to the sponsor pro. Joel, how are we doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. And thanks for everybody who's tuning in.
Yeah, very excited. Before we even get into any of it, I've just been curious, and I just want to talk about the style,
the swag.
Where did your inspiration come from for the fits? Where do you get them? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I think the obvious answer would be my parents are both professional artists. So I grew up as, a little artist kid. Always loved art growing up. And so, yeah, that means I like bright colors. And I think my main inspiration came from when I first started kind of watching pro level, touring level coverage. I would see some guy, on lead card, final round at the World Championships or whatever, and the dude is wearing gray and black. And I'm like, come on, man, like, give us some flair. So I also noticed that early on, like, I always enjoyed rooting for the guys who were wearing some color first, before I knew anything about the player. I'd be like, yeah, I'm rooting for that guy. He's wearing some fun colors. So yeah, I just like to have fun with it. That's one of the most fun parts of my job for me. So
yeah, that's awesome. I know every time that I see the fits, I look forward to seeing the event fits, final round fits, all those things, because it just makes the game more fun. Like, I don't know about you, Horatio, and probably a lot of other people feel this way also. I enjoy seeing that, especially on those Jomez cards, those live cards is just so much fun, because I also feel like, once you already got the good fit, everyone there seeing it, then you put the cameras around. I just feel like the game goes to another level.
For sure. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate the love. Of course I get all kinds of mixed reviews. Some people are like, man, he's got to, he needs to throw those pants away or whatever. I'm like, sorry, man, they're here to stay. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about this in the past with other guests about not necessarily the stereotype, but I guess what disc golf, how it started and kind of what people want it to. Some people want it to become, as it gets bigger, they want it to be, those guys wearing the gray and black. They want it to be what people see on ball golf, very professional, basically the guys that just left their Forbes 500 company or whatever, and then they went out and played a round of golf. Very serious people, very professional. But that's kind of not really what the roots of disc golf is. I feel like people that, disc golf, even now, we were talking about this yesterday, like it's a combination. The people on tour, they're like van lifers. And you think about van lifers, you think about people, like to be out in nature, like to do fun stuff, kind of not necessarily in the very like cookie cutter expectations of, society. So I feel like you are a great, example for keeping that alive, for keeping the sport fun, not necessarily getting people to, it has to be that. I feel like there's a place definitely for that. And if people want to be, like that, I guess, more serious golfer, I feel like that's cool. But I feel like disc golf is fun, and that's kind of what people expect. So it's great to see, players out there like you with fun colors. Nico also loves doing great outfits. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think the I don't know, like where I might slightly disagree with what I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like I feel like, to be professional, professionalism and, let's say, whatever, bright colors, expression, like that kind of thing, those don't have to be opposites. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's my intention to straddle that line really well between like professional while also fun and exciting and unique and different, and so yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I didn't really plan out any outfits coming into this past year. I just kind of got a bunch of clothing items that I liked, and then I sort of figured it out as I went. And so there were a couple outfits that I kind of saw after the fact, and I was like, I don't know if that's working so well, but trying to do my best to hone it in, and keep it professional, because I'm a big advocate for professionalism in disc golf, but I'm also a big advocate for color. So
I gotta ask you then, is that Innova who is sending you the shirts and the pants, or where are you getting this from, and where can I go out and purchase my own?
yeah, I mean, there are a bunch of different sources, and a little, I don't know if I could call this a spoiler, but maybe just like a little tidbit for you. There's some exciting things coming on this topic for 2022. So I'm really stoked about that. But so number one answer, thrift stores. I just like stop into thrift stores, it's every excuse I can get. And most of the time I walk out with nothing, but every once in a while, I find some cool looking shirt or cool looking pair of pants or something. Beyond that, Black Ace Gear has been my clothing sponsor the last couple of years, and they've put together a couple cool like shirts for me, and they've helped as well. And then the most recent and probably most, I don't know, noticeable kind of clothing items that you've seen me wearing have come from a website called Hreski, Hreski, I believe. So if you look up Hreski.com, I their website's awesome. It's like on the front page you'll see it says like hate fitting in or hate blending in or so, that sort of thing. The hate being normal, you're in the right place, or that sort of thing. And so yeah, I found some fun stuff on there. But yeah, look forward to 2022. Keep your eyes open, because there's going to be some really fun stuff on the horizon.
Yeah, if we'll get going from this, but I'm guessing you're talking about kind of gear and stuff like that.
Yep.
Discmania is kind of the only ones that I see do that, and like they put out really cool stuff, the Eagle Mcmahon jerseys and stuff. And I'm excited to hear what you guys have coming forward, because in soccer, like if you follow professional soccer, like the fans, they don't wear like just kind of t-shirts that say the teams or whatever. Like they buy jerseys. Like that's kind of the thing, like what the players, it makes you feel like you're part of the team or whatnot. You buy one of their jerseys. So Discmania does it really well. They see Eagle wearing those jerseys on the weekends, Kyle Klein, Simon. So very excited to see what you guys have coming out on that.
Absolutely. I've noticed the same thing. And honestly, I see disc golf as a whole and all the like touring player community as a whole uh stepping up their shirt game. I complimented a lot of guys this past year. I mean, in 2021, Ricky stepped it up, Simon stepped it up, Eagle stepped it up, Kevin stepped it up. Um, I just saw like the list goes on. Like I was giving Nico, I was giving a lot of guys compliments hey, I'm not the only one out here. Like me and Germ aren't the only two out here who are like giving a little bit of thought to our to our outfits. So yeah, I love the direction that things are moving. And I totally agree. I love seeing the jerseys pop up and getting the fans in on it as well.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say on it, I think it does make disc golf just more fun in general, as well as,
Yeah.
I agree with you. You can wear bright colors. You can wear different kinds of outfits that's not gray, black, or white or blue, and it's still, be professional. I think there's a very fine line with what you're wearing and allowing yourself to have fun. And it just makes the game more, I don't know. I'm more likely to watch somebody, like you kind of said earlier, you're more likely to root for somebody with the fun colors on. I agree. I'm more likely to watch around if there's a little bit more pizzazz or flair to it than if it's just 4 dudes or 4 gals all wearing black and white. Like
Yeah.
it's just the little things that I think our minds are more interested in. But this has been a fantastic discussion to start us off. So Joel, let's go all the way back, right before all the fun clothing we had on, right? When you first picked up a disc, talk to me. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so it was just kind of out of nowhere. I'll never remember, I'll never forget the time I learned to throw a frisbee. I don't know, I was like 3 years old. My mom took me in the backyard. She told me to imagine I had a plate of food, and that helped so much my 3-year-old brain because I was like, Mom, you get it to fly, and mine just dives left. And she's like, just imagine we're at dinner, you got a plate of food, boom. And then that set me up for the next 15 years. Like, and I was always good at frisbee, always loved frisbee. And I would like play frisbee golf. I didn't know there was a name for it, but I would like play it in the park with my dad. We would just pick obstacles and throw at it. And it wasn't like a frequent thing we would do, but we had fun with it. Out of nowhere, leading up to the summer of 2011, I believe. This was between my junior and senior year of high school. A friend of mine, his name was Connor, and completely out of the blue, no context, he's like, hey, have you ever heard of disc golf? I'm like, yeah, sort of, like frisbee golf. He's like, yeah. And he's like, I don't really know anything about it, but I like want to give it a try. You want to try it with me? And I'm like, yeah. So me and him both for the first time looked up a local disc shop, and in our area, we're fortunate to have the Wright Life. I don't know if you know the name Bill Wright, but he's a legend in the frisbee world, and so they're kind of like roots in our area. And so we found ourselves at that store. I picked up a Boss. I'm like, maximum speed, baby. Like that, this is gonna be my go-to. And we ended up playing almost every day that entire summer. We just immediately loved it. And so yeah.
How old were you at that time?
I would have been 15. I think that's right. 15 or 16. I don't know if I'm doing that math right, but yeah.
And so how did it go for you guys in the beginning? You guys went out, with your Boss. What did that, if you can remember, what was that like, those first few rounds?
Sure. I mean, I was pretty good right off the bat. I threw only forehands. The way I thought of it in my head was you throw an ultimate disc, backhand, you throw a disc golf disc, forehand. That's just how I saw things working, because I didn't know all the right words to use, but what I was thinking in my head was forehands work for disc golf because the discs are too overstable to throw backhand, and ultimate discs are too understable to throw forehand because I didn't have perfect form. And so that's just how it worked best for me. And I was pretty good right off the bat. I could throw over 300 feet on a flex forehand with my Boss right off the bat. Didn't really throw any backhands. But but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say beyond that. Every once in a while I'd see some guy, um, throw a certain kind of shot. Then I would like try to figure out how to do that. I would sit there on that hole and be like, man, he got it to, do this and that. And so I'd kind of experiment, and I started seeing myself do more and more of those things that I was impressed with early on, as I got better and better.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I know if I could start out the gate with 300 feet worth of forehand distance, that would be pretty nice. That'd be pretty nice even right now after a little, almost
Totally.
2 years of playing. That would be pretty nice. So, and I know you were kind of talking about it, that experimentation. Maybe let's go into that a little bit more. How long did it actually develop for you to get a backhand, and what ultimately made you be like, yeah, I need to give this a try? Was it just watching other people and seeing their success?
Yeah, I genuinely don't remember, because for me, the first couple years of me playing was all casual. Like I had no idea what a league was or a tournament or anything. It was just me and my buddy. We would play in our swimsuits so that we would, whenever we chuck in the water, we just walk right in, that kind of thing. Like that was me. And so there wasn't any like certain heartbreak moment where I really needed a backhand or anything. It was just kind of like, I'm pretty sure all my shot selection is going to be multiplied by 2 if I figure out how to do this other way. And so, I I remember for some reason an Avenger was just like my backhand. Like I just had this Avenger that worked well for backhands, and that was just it. That was my backhand disc, Boss forehand, Avenger backhand, and that was that. And I started with just 200-foot Hyzers. That's all I could do, backhand. Uh, and yeah, little by little, just grew from there.
When you started out, you said you had just that one disc that you used for backhand. Was it more simple compared to what you see now with the amount of discs and options and like newer releases coming out like every year? Do you think it's a lot more, I guess, stressful or complicated for newer players because there's so much stuff out there?
Yes, I love that question, because yeah, that's like one of the things that I see like holding people back super bad early on in their disc golf experience. For me, I'm telling you guys, I went about 2 years of playing all the time. Disc golf, was my favorite activity. And I went out there with 2 discs, Boss Aviar. Like that's all I needed. Um, and you can imagine, like I figured out how to do a lot of different things with that Boss, and I figured out how to do a lot of different things with that Aviar. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I like, it hurts me inside every time I see an am who has, 20 different discs, and they pull a different one out on every hole. And I'm like, dude, like just stick with one. Like you can have those other tools in there as long as you have your baby that you throw on every hole, unless it calls for something else. Like unless there's a specific reason why you're being pulled away from your go-to disc, don't throw anything else other than your go-to disc. But yeah, I mean, if you're not throwing over 400 feet, and if you're not like professional level, like, I don't know, at least over a year of experience, you should not have more than 3 discs in your bag. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I see Horatio nodding his head. I feel like, Horatio, you're a little bit more minimalist than I am personally. And I just know that you just continue to consolidate and consolidate and consolidate that bag.
Yeah, I am a big believer in that. I mean, I feel like the best games I play, there was a couple of times when my wife would take my car, and that's where my cart was in. And so I would take her car. And so she just had like her little disc bag that she takes when she goes to play with me that has like 4 or 5 discs. And I would go to play with my same buddy. And I would play just as good, if not better, because all I had we'd play 18 holes, and all I would have would be like 2 drivers and a mid and a putter. And my buddy would be so mad. He's like, how are you playing just as good or like you normally do without your entire bag? And it's because like I would have to figure out what to do with that 1 or 2 discs. And I completely agree. I think unless you're like top level, like professional level, you don't know, even if you think you do, you don't know what to do with 20 discs. That people, they'll carry so many discs and they're like, oh, this is for this shot, this is for this shot. But you can take one disc, and if you're good enough, you can make more shots with that one disc than you can with 20 discs and do like different shots, if that makes sense. So yes, like I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I think even if you're right about like this disc is for this shot and this disc is for this shot and this disc is for this shot, you don't have the appropriate level of execution to be able to see those shots happen with each of those discs. So it's like you're going to be so much better off knowing exactly what a disc does and how a disc acts than you are like guessing each time. And oh, I think this one has a little more turn, or I think this one's going to work better for this shot. You're going to be so much better off just going to the same one over and over again. Your commitment level is going to be so much higher. I mean, that commitment is like so high on the list for for the ingredients to a well executed shot. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question and a great point. And if AMs could just do yourself a favor, save yourself some money, and just simplify. 3 or 4 discs. That's all you need.
Yeah, just real, unfortunately, like we've talked about this before, and like I don't think that companies, they know what they're doing. I don't think they're selling discs as tools. I think they're selling merch. I think it's kind of like Pokemon cards, and it's like, let me see your bag. It's like back in the day, like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, people will pull out their like binder, their deck, and like, let me check out your deck, what you have in your binder. It's like, let me see what's in your bag. Like, okay, I got this rare Paul Macbeth, 5-time whatever. I have this Wraith. Like, it's about kind of showing what you have, what you like, even if you don't throw them that much. Especially like, I feel like Discmania players, like it's very expensive to be a Discmania soul player, because like discs are so expensive and so hard to get. But people still buy them, and they like don't even throw them because they're afraid to lose them or afraid to get them beat up. So like they're just carrying them for the fact of carrying them. So I think, yeah, people buy discs even though like they don't really intend to use them. And yes, they would improve quicker if they didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to echo that a little bit more, we had Juliana Corver on here, golly, probably a couple months ago at this point, and she pretty much said the exact same thing that you guys had just said. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she said one of her best rounds of her entire life was she took one mid-range disc and was running through the disc golf park and literally had the best round of her life. So that consolidation, I think just hearing from you guys is pretty important. Now, let's assume, Horatio, but let's assume I am like these other AMs out here, right? I've got my double-decker card. I've got my 20-plus discs in there, right? And because it kind of like we were talking about earlier, there's so many different things that I feel like I want to try it all. What's next? What's next? How do you go from being someone with those 20 discs, whatever it is? How do you choose to consolidate down? What is important to you when choosing to consolidate your bag and choosing which discs you should hold on to?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is like the speed. I mean, honestly, okay, this entire conversation, this is a shameless plug on my YouTube channel. If you watch my In the Bag, have you guys seen that?
I have not, no.
I haven't finished
Okay.
it.
You guys are gonna love it. Check out my In the Bag, and I talk about exactly how to do this. How to, like, I answer your question with a really good like illustration. I mean, it's like a cheesy school teacher picture of like how this works, but it basically in my brain, like, let me paint this picture this way. In my head, there are 15 spots in a bag for a pro. Okay, I'm not even talking about AMs right now. I'm just talking about pros. There are 15 spots in a professional's bag. You have 5 speeds: putter, mid-range, fairway driver, control driver, distance driver. And then you have 3 flight patterns: overstable, straight, understable. Okay, so 5 times 3, that's 15. You know what I'm saying? So you have, overstable, straight, and understable in each of those 5 categories. Those are your 15 spots. Now, for an AM doesn't even necessarily have enough arm speed for that to even make sense. So in my opinion, you can almost wipe out the distance driver category. Like, I don't even suggest, until you can throw over 400 feet consistently, I don't even suggest you putting anything in that's faster than 10, maybe 11 speed is the very highest I would recommend. And so you can kind of knock off that top speed, and then you can almost knock off the whole overstable category as well. Because again, like, you don't have enough arm speed to really see the difference between like a Thunderbird and a Firebird, for example. Like, they're kind of gonna both do generally the same thing. Yes, you'll see subtle differences, but that's what gets you the subtle differences. Don't bother about the subtle differences. Make it work. If I try to boil down my answer a little bit, if you see overlap in like, oh, this disc goes left and this disc is exactly the same thing, but it just goes a little more left, I'm like, take one of those out. Like, you don't even, just pick one, take one of them out. The other thing to look for in my mind is like, if two of the like speed ratings on your disc are 1 point apart. So like, my bag generally throws, I only throw 5, 7, 9, and 12. There are a couple exceptions, but those are my numbers. And so I don't really have any desire to do like an 8 speed. I don't really have a desire to have an 11 speed. You know what I'm saying? So that's like, those are my 2 big recommendations. Like, if discs are too close to each other in speed or in like flight tendency, just take one of them out. Like, it probably doesn't even matter which one, just take one out.
Yeah, I love that breakdown, for like the pros of the 15 discs. And I feel like that makes a lot of sense because pros, they are on tour, they're playing different courses every week. So it makes sense you need more discs. Most AMs are going to play probably 1 to 2 courses, and that's it. Maybe, I feel like most people play the same course every week or whatnot. And I feel like the quick answer, for AMs as far as consolidating their bag, I feel like most of them, if they carry 15, 20 discs, if you followed them for a round and you tallied and you took note of what discs they were throwing, you could probably write down like 5 discs, not including like a putter, but you could probably write down 5 discs that they actually used in an entire round and they threw it more than twice. And so I feel like that would be the quickest, easiest way to consolidate your bag. It's like, even though you're carrying 20, maybe there's 1 or 2 that you're randomly throwing in there, but most AMs that are carrying 20 plus discs, they're throwing probably 5 that entire 18 holes.
Yeah. No, I love the way you put that. Yeah. Keep the ones that you throw more than once. If you find yourself going through a whole 18 hole round and you only touch a disc one time, probably doesn't need to be there. And yeah, like, to kind of to reinforce what you just said, like, when I'm on tour, there are some really well-designed courses out there. And so I get pumped up and there's a lot of respect towards the course designer when I have to use, more than 10 discs in my bag. Like, I'm very impressed when I have to reach for that many in one round. But guess what? Like, when I step off tour and I play, beachy or whatever, you're going to see me reach for my gator for probably 9 or more of the holes. You're going to see me throw a putter a couple times, mid a couple times, Firebird a couple times, and maybe destroyer like once or twice. And that's it. Like, all those other little, slots don't even get touched at like most courses in the world for me. It really takes a big, bad, angry course for me to be pulling out, most of these, any sort of like fancy turnover shot, or I don't know, whatever. You get my drift.
And have you noticed maybe then that allows you to put your like mental capacity more into your shot? So where I'm kind of going with this is like, if you, let's say, you have a whole pie, you have 100% of the pie, and 35% of that is going towards, well, which of the 7 discs that does the same thing am I going to pick? Then you
Yeah.
can only put, 65% of your mental effort into the shot now. Have you noticed at all maybe like it's easier and like you don't have to think about what you're doing as much by not having as many discs in the bag compared to those tournaments where you do have more discs in the bag?
I think as an am, I would say yes. As a pro, I'm kind of in a whole different world at this point, and those discs don't actually physically leave my bag. I still have them there in case I get into some unexpected situation or whatever. So I think for me personally, and in my current like stage of my career, the answer would probably be no. But would I expect the answer to be yes for 98% of disc golfers in the world? Yeah. Because again, it comes down to when you're reaching for that same disc over and over again, you develop a level of, comfort, a level of commitment that won't be there when you're throwing the disc for the first time in 3 days or a week or a month or whatever, like.
I think it's been great. I don't think we intended for this interview to be about discs, but I feel like it was great. Some really good stuff in there. But I want to talk a little bit more about you, your season. I'm looking at your PDGA this year. I mean, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tournaments. You came in third. So, you were up there and you were like really, really close. And I mean, I feel like you were on Joe Mass quite a bit. I've seen for the season. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know, you can tell us about how you felt about the season, but I feel like you had a great season, solid season. What was it about the season, that made you turn up to these tournaments and do really well? And what are you going to continue into the next season?
Yeah, it's I've been processing a lot ever since the season ended. And if you follow me, like if anyone out there has followed me closely, they'll know that I wasn't happy with the season. I think here's mainly why I say that. Like for me, from my angle, the storyline comes back to 2018. 2018, first year on tour, first event on tour, Las Vegas Challenge, national tour event, and I placed second. So I set the bar high right off the bat. Nearly won an NT, literally first event on tour for me. Got my first win on tour at the Vintage Open, which this year was a pro tour event. That year it was an A tier, but that was still a big deal. Ricky was there, Johnny McRae was there, Chris Clemens, Eric Oakley. There were some people I had to beat for sure. Fast forward to 2019, and I had a little bit of a slow start in 2019, but I finished strong. And both in 2018 and 2019, if I'm not mistaken, my rating jumped, I think, a total of like 25 points in that 2-year span. And so I was averaging over a 10-point increase each year. In 2020, I took the year off. We could get into that if you want, but I got married, had some other cool stuff happening in my life, and crazy enough, like I had made that decision before COVID happened, and so it kind of ended up working out I felt really fortunate that I had already made that decision before COVID happened. That was so crazy to look back on, and I'm fortunate to say that my 2020 went according to plan, which no other touring disc golfer person can say that. So all that being said, coming into 2021, there was a realistic acknowledgement that there was going to be kind of a learning curve of me getting back into the swing of things, getting back on tour, back into the mindset, all that good stuff, back into the routine. And so I tried to manage my expectations early on, but really like the first 4 months of my tour this year was like not great. Like I really didn't have much to be proud of by my standards. And it's a tricky spot to be, right? Because at the beginning of 2019, I was about 1020 rated. At the end of 2019, I was 1030 rated. So my goal for 2021 was, if I'm coming in rated around 1030, hopefully I'll leave rated around 1040. That was kind of what I was hoping for. You know, I had made a 10-point ratings jump pretty much every year ever since I had like started playing tournaments. And so I'm like, let's keep that going. Like, give me another 10 this year. And instead, it was just totally flat. Like, it was almost a repeat of 2019 for me. Like I said, the first half was just like not good. And then, the second half was good. I finished strong. There were ups and downs, of course. I still had bad weekends in there, but I had a lot of great highlights and a lot of cool moments. And, nearly won Idlewild, nearly won USDGC. And so I had a lot of good things to take from the second half. But again, a lot of people have mixed feelings about ratings. I feel like ratings do a pretty good job of showing how good or bad, like how good or bad a player is. Like, you're not gonna see, the disparity only goes so far. Like you when you hear 1,000 rated player, you don't picture an 850 rated player. Like it. So yeah, I'm kind of rambling on here, but basically, I set high standards for myself. I'm too hard on myself at times, and I've got big goals. I've got big hopes for my career and whatnot. And so, in light of the high bar that I set for myself, it didn't feel like a fantastic year. But having said that, like, I do acknowledge there were some fantastic moments, some really cool highlights. I really, like, I love being on coverage. It was an honor to get a lot of like airtime on Jomez, on the Disc Golf Network, and a lot of love from the fans this year. And so a lot of great takeaways from this year. But I am hoping to kind of crank it up and perform a little better next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that everyone wants to do. They want to see that improvement year over year. And, if you don't have that, it's almost like, well, I didn't get any better and I'm just doing the same thing. And you never want to hit that plateau. But before we get into the ace round, you had mentioned the ratings. And I know ratings is a little bit of a hot take depending on who you talk to. So let's get into our hot take segment here. Joel, what is your hot take that you have for the people out there?
Yeah. So, so yeah, my hot take that that you kind of had me think about ahead of time. I feel like the baskets are too big, putting's too easy. Let me see. I like the notes that I wrote. So I wrote, the targets on tour are too big. Notice I said on tour. The targets on tour are too big, and if they shrunk, disc golf would become way cooler, more exciting to watch, and course design would become way easier.
And also, like, the thing about that is I love how you said it also, on tour. I think on tour, that's what's important. In regular and world disc golf, all that, I think it's fine. It's A-okay how it is. But on tour, and I'm not saying the little tiny marksman baskets that DD puts out, but maybe just a little bit bigger than that. And also, it's 2022. I don't know why the Disc Golf Pro Tour doesn't have a standard basket for on tour. So, like, let's do that. Make it a little bit smaller. And you just take those 18 baskets and you take out what the course has. You put the Pro Tour basket in, and you just move it around as the tour goes. I don't know, just a thought.
Totally. Yeah. And that's feasible. And there, of course, I think the reason why we haven't seen more targets surface, like the ones we're describing, is basically because you kind of have to like pick your poison. The number one thing in disc golf, like, you got to maintain that ching sound when and so we could come up, I mean, I could engineer a great basket that would never spit out, that's pretty small, hard to putt on, and that would grab every putt. But guess what? It wouldn't sound like that. It wouldn't sound good. So I feel like that may be the number one challenge in engineering a proper basket. I agree that, like, I don't know that I've seen the perfect basket. Like, I don't really know what it looks like yet. And yeah, in on your local courses, in, like you're saying, in the amateur realm, double the size of the basket. Like, why not? Like, that's going to make it fun. Like, a lot of people are going to hit aces, long putts, etc. But yeah, on tour, I feel like the size of basket that we have currently is really appropriate for like 20-mile-an-hour winds. That's how I would say it.
Yeah, I definitely get that. There's weekends and tournaments where you see some of, the top players on finals, and they're just sinking every putt. Like, one of the people that's most fascinating and annoying to watch is Eagle McMahon. Like, when he, like, the tournaments that he wins, it seems like he like can't miss from anywhere, and like he puts like almost barely any effort to it, and like he knows it's going to go in. And I feel like that would make it a ton more fun to see the pro level guys struggling or missing, not necessarily missing more putts, but I guess having to work for them more. Then I feel like it seems on some of them it seems very easy. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would. I mean, that saying we all know: drive for show, putt for dough. Driving is the more creative, more exciting. I think most people would. I guess that's a dangerous thing to say, that the driving is more exciting than putting, because it just depends on the storyline behind the putt or whatever, that sort of thing. So I won't get into that. But in general, like, let's just say more interesting. Okay. The driving aspect of the sport is the more interesting side, as opposed to putting. Like, putting is repetitive. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And so shrinking that target down puts more emphasis on the drives. It creates way more like pressure and strategy. Suddenly the game is way more interesting, because you're not just running everything inside 200 feet because you're going to make the comebacker anyway. But the other thing is, I hear people like talking about this topic. They'll say like, oh, well, what about all the like highlights? Like, there are so many highlights in disc golf, and that's what makes it so fun. Like, we wouldn't see as many aces, we wouldn't see as many circle two putts or whatever. How many 60-foot putts have you seen come in and just hit exactly on the pole, like dead nut center of the basket? Like, these pros are good enough, you would still see plenty of shots go in, but it would just be that much more hyped up and exciting when they do. Guys are good enough that they still be jamming 60-footers, 70-footers, you name it. But yeah, I think it would just like up the excitement level, and it would just cause that much more separation between pro and am, which isn't that the whole point? Like, to see, to display a player's skill.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's just an overall interesting concept that hopefully the Disc Golf Pro Tour does kind of take a look at, and they think about implementing something like that here in the short term. But let's get into the ace round here real quick. We'll kind of go through these. I know we've been taking up a lot of your night, so we'll get through these here pretty quick. And
no, I'm all for it. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, for sure. So Horatio, start us off with the first question.
All right, I'm excited for this one because of the conversation we had. So you're taking a new player, someone, you just play the first round with, and they're hooked on the sport, and they want to buy their first set of discs. So a putter, mid, and driver. What discs are you recommending them buy?
AVR, Leopard, Beast. I think don't even bother with the mid. There's too much overlap with the putter. Doesn't really matter what putter, whatever one feels good to them or looks cool to them or whatever. And then I like to think one driver that's like slow and will kind of flip more, and then one driver that's has a little more stability. That's what I'd start with.
Yeah, those are pretty good. And I definitely was expecting a consolidated answer just based on what we've done so far here in this
Yeah.
episode. So second question we have for you, what is the favorite course you have played and one course you would love to play again?
This this answer is way too hard. Favorite courses, one, nothing you haven't heard before. Milo McIver, Maple Hill, Fox Run. I love Idlewild too. Courses I haven't played, the one that comes to mind is Moraine State Park. For some reason, like I've signed up for Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open multiple times, and something seems to come up, and I just still haven't made it out there. The other one that comes to mind is Throw Down the Mountain in Florida. I'd love to get out there. Never seen that course, so.
Cool. Yeah. That Pittsburgh one will be even better once you finally get up there. So that'll be good. All right. Next question we got is one tip you would give to yourself who just started playing disc golf.
Yeah, that one's easy. Film yourself. Like I didn't start filming myself until, I don't know, pretty recently. I think I would have started earlier, but I saw myself getting on coverage, and so I kind of just counted that as being able to review myself on film. So I had that luxury being a pro, but good night. Like film yourself before you form all those bad habits that you try to break 5 years later. It's just so, I can't stress the value of the film.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot easier to see what you're actually doing instead of the thought of what you think you're doing, for sure.
Absolutely. I remember my first few years I played, I thought my backhand form looked just like Will Schuster. And the first time I saw a video, I was like, oh my gosh, how is this happening? So, yeah.
The fourth question we got for you, what is your favorite memory playing disc golf?
Yeah, this one's way too hard as well to pick one. And it's also, I feel like it's twofold because again, I'm a pro. And so like a lot of my favorite memories are during tournaments as opposed to just like cool shots I threw casually. So I'll read some off of this list. USDGC this year, my first Hyzer Flip, that was a crazy moment. My first tournament, my first win, shooting course record at DDO. One time I took a friend disc golfing for her first time, and she threw in from like 200 feet for her first par ever. My first playoff, that was against Eagle McMahon. Almost winning Idlewild this year. Yeah, the list goes on. So
I love the one, my first Hyzer Flip on there. I feel like that is not enough credit. My buddy the other day, because like that's my favorite shot to throw is Hyzer Flip. I feel like if you don't have as much arm speed and you can't throw, you're not a bomber. I feel like Hyzer Flip is the best way to get extra distance. So that's kind of my shot. And I do that all the time. My friend loves watching it. And the other, like a few weeks ago, like, because he throws a Hades also, so kind of understable, but usually it's just a Hyzer thing. And he finally got one and it just went out and like he saw it pick up a little, like lift up and like, flatten out and then carry. And he just like went crazy because he's like, it stood up. Like I finally get what you were always talking about. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really memorable moment because I mean, again, I started with the boss. And so as you can imagine, I'm chopping over sidearms. Like that's all I ever do. That's my stock shot. It's just a matter of how much chop, depending on where I want it to go. But yeah, I remember, I won't explain where I was or whatever, but I found myself with this like cheapo disc in my hand. And I'm like, this thing's goofy. Like, I'm going to need a lot of, again, I didn't know what the right word was, but I was thinking in my head, I'm going to need a lot of Hyzer to make this fly right. And I just remember, I put a lot of power and a lot of Hyzer on it. And of course, just big Hyzer flip, flipped over, turn, full flex back. And I was like, that disc is broken. Throw it in the trash right now. Like discs are not supposed to do that. I thought understable discs had been used too much and they needed to be thrown away. Like I literally thought they were broken. So that was a funny moment.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. Last thing we got here for you is, what is the biggest mistake you see new players make?
Yeah. Definitely like when they step into a tournament arena everything changes. Like that's the biggest difference between pro and am. Like I cannot tell you how many people I play some practice round with. I'm like, whoa, dude, like you're a 10, 20 rated player. And then I talk to them a little bit and they're like, yeah, my goal for this year is just to break 900 and get over. I'm like, what? Like, you just beat me by 3 strokes in a casual round. And you're telling me that I'm supposed to beat you by 13 in like a tournament? Like, that doesn't make sense. I think people just freak themselves out. Like suddenly your routine is so much longer than it was day to day. You're way more nervous, and then you play a lot worse. That's what I see a lot of beginners and a lot of AMs do.
Yeah, Joel, it was a fantastic episode having you on. That's a great final tip to close us out here. Before we get out of here, where can the people follow you at on Instagram, subscribe to your YouTube channel, and anything else you got?
Yeah, my Instagram handle is Brother Frizz. And as you mentioned, I've been way more active trying to ramp up my social media game. It was weak a couple of years ago, so I'm trying to ramp it up. Check me out, Brother Frizz, BROTHA FRIZ. And then look me up on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel called Wholehearted, without the W. So like 18 holes, Wholehearted. Look me up, Joel Freeman, Wholehearted. And like I said at the beginning, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate the support, and I appreciate you guys, Chain Clankers, for having me and the invite to come on your show.
Well, Joel, thank you so much, for taking the time to sit down and chat with us. Very excited to see you next season. I know it was a lot of fun this season watching, not before. I mean, we've only been in the game, for about 2 years or so. So a couple of times, first time seeing you and being like, who's this guy with the cool, funny pants, challenging these top pros that everyone talks about, blah, blah, blah. And seeing you, go toe to toe with them towards the final, and I feel like it was very, very easy and very exciting to cheer for you because of that. So can't wait to do that next season. And, I feel like there's definitely going to be some big wins for you next season. So very excited for that, and best of luck to you next season.
I appreciate it very much. Yeah. The big goal for next year is going to be to take down one of those big tournaments. So here we come.
Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers, and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.